Alright, this is a quick little video kind of summarizing what we did earlier before. This simulates that this is on line 22 or 23. Obviously your thing is going to change and whatnot, but so we did the sample 100, 1010, and then I did 1110.9. And then on this one, number of gallons purchased and the pump price, that type of thing. So that automatically filled in. Again, I was just playing around. So 2 gallons purchased, 50 gallons purchased, and then the pump price came out with these totals. I didn't mess around with any of the discounts because we haven't gotten there yet. But as you can see in here, the miles said 0. Well, the reason why it says 0 is it's the first data point. Now, if I put a point up in here, let's say 901, and then I press tab to go to the next little thing and enter it in, it's going to say I went 109 miles. So that means 901 plus 109 is 1010, or the 1010. So you can see it updated 109 miles. Now at 2 gallons during that time, then it comes up with the 54.5. And you can see the average now is 56, because the second one we averaged 2 miles a gallon because we only went 100 miles, or 100.9, and we used 50 gallons. So it does keep it up to date. But again, if that's the very first entry, so this goes to 0 or delete and get rid of that, it goes back to 0. Now before we had like an error code and everything else, and again the formula that we'll have to enter is kind of complicated, and this is what it looks like. Feel free to hit pause, and then what we're gonna do is I'll explain what the is blank function does. So the is blank, I'll just write it out right here. So is, or equals, is blank, and you can kind of see how it auto fills in here. So all I have to do is press tab, and then I'll go ahead and put the square next to it, and then close the parentheses. So the simple function of is blank, it's called a Boolean. Boolean, basically it's a logical test. It's either true or false. So the question that it basically is asking is the cell blank? Well, which cell? D13. So right now D13 is right here. As you can see, we're D13. Is it blank? Well, it is blank, so it returns true. But if I put something in and go to the next thing, it turns it to false. See how I just switched to false? And I didn't change anything in the code. Still is blank D13 false, because now there's something in there. But if I go ahead and delete it and leave it blank, it goes to true. I can put letters and go away from it. Now it turns to false. Delete it and it goes immediately to true. So basically what our other little formula was doing, let me go back to it. Alright, we're asking, the if statement is basically comprised of 3 parts. So, oops, let me go back. Where are we? I'm trying to make this quick. Again, this is kind of giving you a little crash course on it. So basically you can see the only functions or words that I used were if and is blanks. Other than that, I got a bunch of commas and I got a bunch of cell references. And as I go to the next square, you can see that they're always kind of referencing in sequence as we go down. So we'll explain that part in a bit. So the if statement is basically, it's comprised of 3 sections, and again I can kind of do that up in here. I'll just type in if, and they should hit go. Of course it's not going to find it in the financial section. Alright, all, oh there it is, boom. Alright, so again, this is how the wizard kind of teaches you. So it says if logical test, comma, value if true, comma, value if false. So basically what it does, it says checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So what we're doing is we got to do a test, and a simple test could be like if 3 is greater than 2. So let's go ahead and click OK. Let's see this. So if 3 is greater than 2, tab, what do we want to do if it's true? Let's put out 5. So the value of true says if the value is returned to a logical test is true, if emitted, true is returned. So if we leave it all blank, it'll just say true or false. But if we want to put a value in here, in this case 5, if the statement is true, it'll return 5. Right now it's saying the equal sign right here is going to be the result, because what I did was 3 is greater than 2. Over here it shows you, hey, that's a true. So whatever is in this square is going to be the answer. Now let's say we want 0 to be the other if it's wrong. And so you can see basically here's what the logical test, the value if it's true, the value if it's false. So we're going, it comes out to true, so we're going to put out 5 if it's right, 0 if it's wrong, but because it is true, we're going to put out 5. So now let's change this to 3 is less than 2. Now, okay, it says, hey, that's false. We're going to put out 5 if it's true and 0 if it's false. So because it's false, it outputted 0. See how the second little part down here kind of changed? So what I did now, and let's go ahead and cancel this out, is I nested. It's called nesting functions when you put multiple functions together. So what I did was this big if statement can be broken down into if. Now the first part is the test. So we did is blank, C3. That's a test. The first comma, right after first comma, this is what happens if it's true. So if that is blank, so if C3 is blank, so we go up to C3. Right now it's not. But if it was, we'd put 0. Because that's what we say true is right here. And again, as you're typing this out, it'll highlight, and it'll keep track. So as you're typing this in this bar, it'll follow along. So if I go here, now you can see that it's saying this is part of the logical test. I go over here, okay, now I'm working on what do I want it to do if the value is true. I do all of that, whatever I want to have if it's true, and then I do a comma. So now there's my comma, now the value if it's false. So now, if that C3 is blank, is false, which in this case it is, now I want it to do another test, and this is where it becomes nested. So if that has a value, we're going to do a second test. So the second test is if C2 is blank. So C2 is a square above it. So in this case it is blank. So we did a logical test as we demonstrated earlier, and it's going to pop out either true or false if it's blank. So in this case it is blank, so it is going to pop out true. What to do if it's true is going to be right here in this little section. You see how it says value of true? It's in between these commas. We're going to put a 0. If it's false, we're going to go ahead and do a subtraction. See how it's also keeping track if the thing is false. We're going to do whatever we do here. So in this case, if it's false, we'll do C3 minus C2. Well, C3 minus C2 would be 1010. So you remember how that first time when we tried to type it in, we set the very first mileage up over here was like 1,000. This, whatever this first number was over here, and it screwed up the mpg and it screwed up the total, and we came up with negative numbers because we're trying to subtract from 0 and all that stuff. Well, at any rate, so that was the formula. All we had to do at this point is click and drag, and it's all by reference. So C3, C2, C3 minus C2. I go down one, it changes C4, C3, C4 minus C3. So everything gets shifted down by 1 each time I go down. So that's a way to reference it. Now the miles per gallon calculation, we're using the is blank again, and we're using the if statement again. So basically we're doing a logical test. The is blank function will either return true or false. So what are we trying to ask? whether it's true or false. We're trying to ask E3. So E3 is in the gallons, because if we got 0 gallons, I don't want to divide by 3, because what we're trying to get is K3, which is miles. So K3 is the total number of miles, and we're trying to divide it by the gallons purchased, E3. But if I got 0 in here, then it's going to be divided by 0, which is illegal. And actually, I'll show that as another thing, because technically, even though this works, if you accidentally put a 0 in here, and it just, you know, if it's blank, we got the workaround for that, because that's what all of these are, because all the formulas are dragged down, as you can see. If it's blank, it's just going to be zeros and zeros. But if you put a 0 in the gallons thing, it's going to fuck up. It's going to give an error, and I'll show that here in like 1 second. Alright, so basically we're testing, do you have something in the gallons field? If no, in other words, if it is blank, then we'll just put 0. That's where that this part comes in. So if it's true that this is blank, then put a 0. If there's something there, now we're going to do K3 divided by E3, as it's written here. And that's how we calculate the miles per gallon. So again, just to show you an example, as we go down, it's all E4s, K4, you know, everything is the 4th row, everything's the 5th row, everything's the 6th row, but it's all the same formula. All we had to do is drag it down. So here's going to be the epic fail. If you were to put in 0 and you press return, it's going to say division by 0. So at least it didn't crash the computer. I mean, the older computers would have, but yeah, division by 0. I'm going to go over, hover the comments section or whatever. And then it says divide by 0 error, how to help. You know, we could ignore it or edit the formula. Basically, for the time being, we're just going to ignore it. So obviously, if you got anything in here, if it's going to be 0, just it's better to leave it blank, and then it'll go back. But if you put 0, it'll put the division by 0 error on there, because everything gets sucked into a black hole. Anyway, the limit's 15 minutes. We're at now about 12 minutes in, and surprisingly, you haven't called back, you know, so that's kind of a good thing. I'm gonna finish this up here, and then I'm gonna go get some sleep. I'll talk to you later. Alright, bye.